Good afternoon, everybody. There's the recording in progress voice, just to let you know it's been recorded. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Tom Davis. I work at the University of Leeds. Welcome to the latest InLeeds session. We've got an alumni panel on what I wish I'd known after graduating. My internet seems to be a bit shaky at the moment, so if I have to duck out, my colleague from Leeds Arts University is on hand to step in and take over hosting from me. So do let me know if my Wi-Fi sounds like it's going, but hopefully we're all right. So we're joined by alumni from 3 of the 4 universities that are part of InLeeds Week, and we're very pleased to have them all with us today. So we've got Beth Hancock, who's from the University of Leeds, graduated in 2018, studying law, and is now a legal recruitment consultant at Badenoch and Clark. We've got Ekaterina Sheath, who graduated from illustration in 2021, so last year, from Leeds Arts University, and is now a freelance illustrator. And then we're also joined finally by Orla Gallagher, who graduated from Leeds Beckett last year in marketing management, and is now the head of talent acquisition at G&E Group. So a wide range of subjects, wide range of jobs that they're doing now, but all recent graduates who are sort of recently in a similar position to you. The way the session is going to work is they're going to go one by one, just introducing themselves, spending 5 to 10 minutes talking about what they studied, what they're now doing, what sort of steps they did to get themselves to where they are now, and sort of things that they know and think are relevant to you guys' interests. We'll then have plenty of time at the end for questions. If you've got any questions while people are talking that you want to ask to people, do drop them in the chat. We'll also have time at the end and we'll ask for more questions. So just whenever you want to ask questions. Feel free to take away. The session is being recorded. And just kind of with 2 sessions taking place later today, the 2 sessions on political questions in Leeds, so do come along to those. Looks like I'm unstable, so I'm going to duck out, but we didn't.
I think Tom's internet has gone. So if we just start off with the presentations, hopefully we'll get Tom back shortly. So Beth, are you okay to start us off?
Yeah, of course. So I graduated in 2018, as you have just established, from the University of Leeds, studied law, which was a journey, I must admit. There were definitely times when I thought, when is this degree ever going to end? How am I going to get through this? But yeah, it was really good. Really enjoyed the course. I didn't really have a clue what I wanted to do, and I just thought, out of all the subjects, law was fairly interesting. I thought it would open up a lot of doors, and genuinely really enjoyed my time at uni and in Leeds as a whole. I think it's a great city and it's got so much going on. Fortunately, graduated sort of before any of the COVID pandemic hit, which seems like a lifetime ago now. So yeah, I managed to take out a bit of time out after finishing university. Classic gap year, did a bit of traveling, and then came back in 2019 and thought I would have figured my life out. Really didn't have a clue what I wanted to do, didn't have this amazing epiphany that I thought I would have when I went traveling, and was really just more and more confused as the weeks went on as to sort of what I wanted to do. By that point, a lot of my friends had gone on to pursue law as a career. They were now sort of doing their LPCs. I don't know if anyone here is wanting to do law, but it is quite a rigorous process after uni, and they were sort of all undertaking that. And for me, it just didn't gel with what I wanted to do. I didn't find it particularly interesting, and it didn't really see that there were many other options aside from being a lawyer. So I was just stuck in this limbo of, okay, what do I want to do? I don't want to be a lawyer, but I don't really know much else. How do I sort of go about it? For me, in terms of sort of like figuring things out after, it was really about thinking about what I didn't want to do. I knew that I didn't want to be a lawyer, so that was a big book closed. There were other bits and bobs that I wasn't interested in. Science, for example, absolutely rubbish that. That was never going to be a career for me. So it was sort of this process of elimination of thinking, okay, don't like this, don't like that. I knew I wanted to be back to Leeds. I'd moved back home, and Leeds as a city, as we all know, is fantastic, and it definitely was something that I wanted to get back into and physically be in the city. So I actually got into recruitment from going to an agency and sort of looking for help. I was definitely of the opinion that to use an agency and have sort of other people looking for my career as much as me was obviously advantageous. You know, 2 people looking is better than 1. And it just so happened that they asked me if I wanted to work for them, really. So I went in as a candidate, you know, looking for help, and fortunately they asked me, you know, would you like to come and work for us? And that's how I got into recruitment, really. I've since had 3 jobs in 2 years, which is yeah, it's been interesting. I now do legal recruitment, which has really sort of honed in on you know, using my degree, but in a slightly different way that I probably wouldn't have thought about when I was at university. You know, I still speak with lawyers, I still have that knowledge, which really helps with my role, but I don't have to read through, you know, 200 contracts a day. So it does tick the boxes that I was looking for, but I didn't really know what those boxes were. In terms of sort of supporting through my role as a recruitment as well, I have done a lot of graduate recruitment across a lot of different sectors, and I definitely think from speaking to a lot of different people, the hardest thing is just figuring it out. I think if you don't know what you want to do, it can be quite a daunting question. I think that's the whole, what do I want to do with my life, is, you know, at times stressful. I've been there myself, it is difficult, but I think sort of what my key takeaway from my exploratory journey was just to break it down. You know, you don't have to have your whole life figured out. If you just figure out what you want to do, even for the next 3 to 6 months, that's all steps in the right direction. Likewise, if you don't really know how your degree sits in a professional capacity, just ask questions. You know, ask someone who is in the industry, ask someone who's maybe a little bit older than you, you know, what does this really look like in practice? Because I think you can sit and read, you know, a graduate job title and think sounds great, but how does that actually look in practice, and how do I go about it? Likewise, use recruiters. You know, we are here for a reason. It's a free service. If you can have a conversation with someone about it, do. You know, like I said, people's knowledge is there, people's resource is there. Definitely take advantage of it. Just try and enjoy what you do. You know, life's too short. We spend a lot of hours at work. So they're definitely my sort of key takeaways in terms of what I wish I'd known, now being sort of 3 years after university. But genuinely, anyone who's trying to get into things, it will all work out. So yeah, that's my little story.
That's great, thank you. I don't know if anybody has questions now, or if they'd prefer to wait until the end. Either is absolutely fine. If you do have questions, pop them in the chat box. I had one just based on what you said, if you don't mind.
Absolutely. That's great.
So I know it was a bit of a journey from graduation to your role in recruitment. You mentioned that you were with the agency and then they wanted to hire you. How did you find that transition in terms of sort of applying for those sorts of that recruitment side, and how your skills aligned?
Yeah, really interesting. I mean, I really didn't have a clue how anything recruitmenty worked. To my knowledge, I sent an application form, normally virtually, and would sit there hoping that someone would come back to me. And to me, that was my knowledge of how to get a job. I obviously wasn't going down the legal training route. So anyone in my sort of immediate group, it wasn't really that relatable. So I genuinely really didn't know. And then going into working in recruitment, I was like, there's so much that goes on here, you know, who knew that all of this happened? Who knew that there was so much resource? So yeah, it was really eye-opening. I definitely think for me, the key thing that I enjoy and still continue to enjoy from, you know, day one to now is the people interaction. I definitely really enjoy speaking to people. I definitely really enjoy building relationships, and like being a part of someone's journey is really rewarding to me. I think it's, you know, I genuinely still get such a buzz when, you know, you ring someone up and you say you got the job and they're like, oh my God, this is amazing. I'm like, yeah, it is amazing. And that definitely is something that makes me happy, and I feel rewarded from it. But yeah, in terms of sort of learning about how it works, you know, what goes into a good CV, you know, what goes into looking at opportunities has been really interesting. But it's something that I've definitely found, yeah, suits me and my personality, really. I'm conscious I've waffled a bit, but I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I've got a couple of other questions for you as well. As I said, other people feel free. So these have come from Tom. So what made you decide to stay in Leeds as opposed to sort of traveling anywhere else?
Yeah.
Did you start in Leeds before uni, or?
No. So I'm actually from East Yorkshire originally, so not a million miles away. I think being from Yorkshire definitely helped. I was like, I'm a northern girl, I want to stay in the north. Everyone going to London, I was looking at the cost of rent and price of a drink, and I was like, no, that's really not for me. So yeah, definitely that. But I genuinely just fell in love with the city. When I first looked around Leeds as a A-level student to look around university, I didn't want to like it. In my head I was like, I don't want to like this university, it's too close to home. I really had my heart set on Manchester, and I literally came on campus and I was like, well, that's gone out the window because I really like it here. And it was that really sort of like, love affair with Leeds, really. I had such a great time at uni. There's many job opportunities here as well. So many businesses now have either their head office in Leeds, or they've got a large northern hub here, and it just made sense because I could still have the life that I knew. I was somewhat familiar with it, but there were still other areas of the city that I didn't know, but I just knew that it suited me and that I would have a good career here, and it's a lot cheaper than other places, which is always nice.
Yeah, isn't it? And do you see, well, it sounds like you do, but do you still see yourself staying in Leeds for kind of mid to long-term future?
Yeah, I'm like Leeds' number one cheerleader. Anyone who's thinking about coming to Leeds, I'm like, do it, you will have the best time. It's such a great city, and across so many different areas. Obviously, student-wise, it's fantastic. There is so much going on and so much support and so many interesting avenues to go down from an academic point of view. But then also in terms of work, genuinely it is so exciting, and it's only going to continue to grow. I don't know if anyone's been into the city centre, but Channel 4 now have an office here, and that's fantastic. A lot of sort of logistics and retail companies now opening offices here, and I just think you can have such a good quality of life and have such a successful career in a city that is so much fun. Like tick 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 for me, really.
Absolutely. Tom, are you back? I don't want to take over, so I just wanted to see if you wanted to jump in, or
no. I think let's carry on with it, and
that's fine.
Yeah.
Excellent, thank you. So there was another question from Tom, and he asked, what are the key skills you took away from your degree, and and obviously we know that it's not directly related in terms of what you do, but where were those kind of transferable skills for you, going
absolutely.
from law to recruitment?
Persistence and staying motivated. It was a hard degree. There were times when I felt like the deadlines were never going to come round and the work was just ridiculous, and it was really about staying persistent, staying organized. There were times at uni when you've been for a night out, maybe you don't quite want to go into the library, but making sure that you do go into the library is really important. And just that sort of self time management and making sure that I did what I needed to do to get the result that I wanted. It is definitely very transferable. I think also the sort of people skills, when you have those teamwork groups, how do you work successfully, how do you manage different people's opinions, how do you use the resources that you've got as well, say for example the relationships that you've got with your lecturers, that's very transferable to then maybe working under someone more senior in a business, and how do you manage that relationship and ask them for advice. And also just like general command of English, being able to write well, being able to present well, that all definitely helps in terms of work. But for me, definitely it was the sort of self-autonomy and keeping myself on the right path and making sure that I hit the deadlines, put the effort in, knew what I needed to do and stayed on that path, because work is challenging. There's so much that's going on, and if you don't have that ability to prioritize and meet deadlines and keep yourself in check, it can soon get very difficult.
Excellent. And I wondered, seeing as you're in recruitment,
Yes.
whether or not, and this may be a bit of a curveball, but whether from your side, kind of the other side of the desk, I guess, in terms of recruiting, whether there's any kind of advice you have for people applying, and any faux pas that you see that come across, things to consider essentially when applying generally.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the main thing is making yourself stand out, and there's definitely different ways that you can do that, particularly if you're looking at graduate schemes or specific graduate roles. There are so many graduates in the market, and unfortunately it does make the competition really tough. Like there's no way to really hide that, and I know it can take a lot of times to sort of get that in and have that conversation. And first piece of advice, don't get too disheartened, like it will happen. But in terms of tips to sort of make yourself stand out, I think really thinking about what you can bring to that business and that role, you know, reading a CV and thinking, you know, even if you haven't had an internship or you haven't had, you know, specific work experience, think about how you can demonstrate that you've still got that aptitude. I think is really important. I was big at hospitality. I came from a hospitality background, and it's really hard work. And I was really keen to, you know, show that I'm a hard worker. I've done, you know, 16-hour shifts in a busy city centre bar, and on paper that might not be the conventional thing that you want to make shine, but I made sure that I did because I felt like it was really important. I think following up, it's quite easy to, when you're applying for things, just send one application and not maybe follow up, or feel maybe scared to follow up or scared to meet outreach, and it is daunting. But I would always take the time to reply to someone if they've emailed me. I will always take the time to reply to them if they've messaged me on LinkedIn about a job, because I'm a person and you want to give that person human contact. But it's easy for things to get lost in the net when you have got, you know, various websites and applicant tracking systems whereby things are getting sort of more lost. You know, people do naturally make mistakes in terms of, you know, giving out feedback, etc. And I think the best way to make sure that you're positioning yourself strongly is to make that outreach. A lot of the times on jobs, they'll say, you know, contact this person for more information, or contact even just HR. Like you can send an email to HR, you can look on LinkedIn, find out who works in HR, drop them a message, and just position yourself in the market as someone who, you know, is available, has these skills and wants to pursue things. Because if you're genuinely passionate about something, making that extra outreach and making that next step will really make yourself sort of stand out, I think.
Brilliant. Thank you very much.
No problem.
I'll ask the panel as well. Does anyone on the panel have any additional questions? We'll come back at the end for kind of a more general Q&A, but I thought I'd ask you as well, and not just the audience. We all good? That's great. Well, thanks very much, Beth. Stay on the call. We may have some more questions at the end. But Ekaterina, are you kind of happy to give us an overview of what you do?
Definitely. I thought I'd share a presentation just because my work's quite visual.
You should be able to share
screen. Get a good understanding. Can you see my screen?
We can indeed.
Let's see if I can do a presentation. Right, I'll just stick on that and then it won't get too confusing. So as they mentioned, I studied illustration at Leeds Arts University, which is in a completely different world from what we just heard from. But yeah, so I thought I'd kind of talk about my journey. When I was a student in first year and second year, I really was doing such huge variety of work. I really was just experimenting and playing around with different avenues that I could push my work, and I didn't really know what I wanted to do when I graduated. I knew that I wanted to do something creative and something art focused, but I hadn't really figured out what context that would be, whether it be children's book or editorial, or even pushing that out into creative directing. There are so many different opportunities available, and I just hadn't really thought about it. And I was just really enjoying my uni time and trying to figuring out what I was most enjoying. So, but it's funny how things happen, because often students will be like, oh, but when did you figure out that what you're doing now is what you wanted to do? And for me, it all started with these two really ugly boxes in the middle of nowhere. So these two media boxes are in Leeds, and it was during lockdown. I just finished second year and we were all stuck in Leeds. My parents were international, so I couldn't get home, and it was just me and my housemate poodling around in this house. And a notification came through on a Facebook group looking for artists to paint these boxes, these media boxes that were on streets. And I was like, oh yeah, I'll do it. I'm really bored. I want to do something different. And it just turned out to be something that I absolutely loved. Like, it was just really fun. It was outdoors. It was with people. Like, people would come by and chat to you. People give you cups of tea, which was really nice. And you're getting proper like northern spirit of people just being like a really big community around you. And I just was suddenly connected so many different things that I was interested in. It connected the fact that the painting aspect of it, and obviously the creativity, but also it was very adventurous. It was outside. It was something very different from being in a studio or working at your desk. So this was something that really started kicking off my career of what I do now, because it just pieced together everything that I was interested in at the time, and how I was pushing the boundaries of what traditional illustration can be considered. And that was really exciting, because I didn't know street art was even an option to illustrators. I thought I'd seen it, and I'd gone to cities and seen huge murals, and I was like, oh, that's so cool, but I have no idea how to get to that level, or I'm in a different career path. But actually, it was really fun to try something different, and this completely grew. So then I became interested in more public realm things, and I started looking for opportunities. So this is one I did in Morley. I actually won a competition to gain this commission whilst I was at university, and I was really lucky that the uni gave me permission to do it as my degree work as well. So that was really great, because I was not only working on a live commission with real clients whilst at uni, but I was still being able to be supported by the uni tutors and also careers department. They really helped me work my way through a commission, because there are a lot of elements that I don't think you really realize until you just have a go at it. So this was a really fun project. It was all about the heritage of this building that had wild stories about bingo, and it was a techno club, and so many really fun things. And I was pulling off of a lot of archival material. So these people were some dancers that were photographed in 1994 in this techno club, and they are all part of my illustration. So this is a project when I started piecing together my interest in heritage as well as street art. Then I did a commission for Leeds City Council, which was really fun. So this was up in on the High Street on Briggate and on Albion Street, and this was really fun because it was basically the consequences of COVID, which were quite sad, was that a lot of shops were closed. So there were loads of just really kind of empty units that were a massive eyesore. So the council sent out commission trying to look for illustrators or artists who could create work to cover these up and make them exciting and fun rather than sad and lonely and empty. So I won that, and that was really fun. So this was another one that kind of pushed me further into the public realm sector, and it was really fun to work on. So yeah, they're still up if you want to go. Some of them are still up. There used to be 7, now they're 5, because obviously the shop units are getting filled, hopefully. So that was kind of my journey of how I've reached where I am. We mentioned that maybe some top tips would be helpful. So I thought I'd put together some things that I really wish I'd known when I was just graduating or whilst I was still at uni. These are very art specific things that I've put on here, but it's as a general kind of top tip, try and find resources that help you find jobs. So for example, in the art world, that's the Arts Council, they have something called Arts Jobs, and you can absolutely just sift through thousands of opportunities. It's actually mad how many there are, and you just use your key terms and work your way through them, and even do it when you're busy, because you just need to keep in touch with what's out there and have an ear to the ground. Your local council will literally have so many opportunities as well. So it's about tuning into the big government bodies or tuning into different organizations around you and seeing what they have on offer. And the other ones on the left are more kind of these are very art specific, like Artist Newsletter and the AOI, which is Association of Illustrators. These are also huge bodies that are looking to support you. So I think kind of riffing off of what the previous speaker was just saying, it's looking for those resources that are there to help you and support you. So look, it's about constantly keeping an eye out for opportunities, and you'll be surprised how many there are. And also in the north as well, you don't have to go to London to make a career. There are so many opportunities, and if anything, I'd argue there are more in the north, because the north are trying to become more creative and trying to push boundaries. So there are so many really exciting projects that are going on. I'd say this is also specific to the creative sector, but maybe also to other jobs. Make sure that you are constantly selling yourself. So social media and on a website is super important. I can't stress it enough, because after I graduated, so many things have come through. I'll get an email in my inbox being oh, I'm this random person from the US who wants to work on a project with you. And I'm like, how did you find me? But it was through Instagram. So it's just things like that. So many of my commissions have come through Instagram. So many of my things are either they ask for a website, which is you always need to come across professional and be able to present your work on a website that you're proud of. But it's about constantly shouting out about your work and being proud of that, and also finding other platforms to do it on. So I use Instagram and a website, but I know lots of other people use Facebook or Behance and things like that. But it's also just flipping back to the Association of Illustrators. They hold a competition that is called the World Illustration Awards. And that's great because if you apply and you get longlisted or shortlisted or even win, so many people are looking at that website because they are like the top dogs of our industry. So it's about trying to find places to showcase your work, because a lot of the stuff is like, if you're walking out and about in Leeds, maybe local people know, but it's about trying to get your reach wider. And then I thought I'd show the really boring part of my work, because like so many people, I think, see the really fun, exciting painting and the murals. And these are the applications I have to do. So it's kind of like on my left is the proposals that I did. So for example, the one with Morley, I wrote like this huge 4-page long application, which was required. And I had to do a CV. And I feel like sometimes these are things that are really hard and they're very time consuming, but I can't stress enough how important it is to try and apply for competitions. So it's worth the time to sit down and write these proposals. And I wanted to show this as well, because I feel like creatives, I know in general, we struggle to write, but it is unfortunately a part of the application process. And I think it's about just kind of accepting that and or seeking help as well, whether it's like someone who checks over your work or a careers department that can help you. So yeah, and then yeah, so I just wanted to say some top tips were definitely, oh, this was the one, my last one was working for free is a dodgy topic. However, I would say that whilst you're supported by your student loan, I know not everyone's circumstances are the same, but try and take on voluntary roles or commissions that aren't paying as well during uni when you're still supported financially by that, because it means that once you graduate, you can charge, because you're like, no, I have the experience in my portfolio. I have like, and then you can just flat out say, no, you need to start paying me for this work. And I think that's really a good use of your uni time, is to try commissions in multiple different spheres as well. Like I did some that I hated and was like, wow, cool, I'm never going to do an album cover again because I did not enjoy that, and things like that. So it's about trying different things, not necessarily being put off if it's voluntary, because it means that you can start building up your portfolio. And the example, I show this example because this was an absolutely disgusting job. It was in a public toilet, it stank, and it was so horrible. But the reason why I took it was because it was in Berlin, and I was thinking from like a business standpoint, you don't have to necessarily say it's a public toilet, but you can say like a large scale installation piece with an international client in Berlin. So it's about like seeing those opportunities that, yeah, okay, it was gross, or maybe, for example, the media boxes I did were voluntary, but they were everything that pieced together that meant that I could create a career once I'd graduated. So yeah, those are kind of my top tips. And I hope it wasn't too creative specific, but yeah, thank you. I'll stop sharing now.
That's brilliant. Thanks, Kat.
Nice.
Yeah, no, I'm sure that everybody's seen your work around Leeds, on particularly on Beckett.
I was just about to say, I remember seeing those boxes pop up in lockdown. I think I must live in a similar area to you. Yeah. And I love them. Like they really made my day. So
thank you. Yeah. Oh, it's so nice when people say stuff like that, because they are fun to work on. And then people come and chat to you. And like this old lady, she was like, oh, I've been isolating for like 3 months and I've come out and I just saw you painting this, and it's really cheered me up, because it's just so nice to see some colour. And like that's part of the reason why I love my job as well.
I do think it's safe to say that you have brightened up the city centre an awful lot. You did the work on the Queen's as well, didn't you?
Yeah.
So there's an installation in the window of the Queen's Hotel, which you can see if you walk the Wetherspoons way through
In the train station,
yeah, in the train station. So yeah, work all over the place really. So I know you're at Duke at the moment.
Yes.
Do you see yourself maybe staying at Leeds kind of mid to long term, or have you got plans?
Yeah, I have to say I love Leeds, and it wasn't kind of accidental thing. I just came for uni and I never had really intended to stay here, but the opportunities are just like, there are so many in Leeds. And also it's about, I think it's not just specific to creative industry, but over the 3 years at uni, I've built such a network as well. Like, I've been constantly talking to people and getting to know not only creatives that were on my course, but also other organizations. And I have like 1 or 2 people in the organizations that I need in order to keep in tune with the commissions that are coming through. And for me, that's completely vital to how my work develops. So it's kind of, yeah, I've created a community here, and I wouldn't necessarily leave that unless I could. I know freelancers can, once you kind of push your name big enough, then you can basically go anywhere. But yeah, I'm in the developing process.
And it can be easy to kind of negate the skills that you pick up through your actual degree, just generally, I think, for people. Are there any kind of key skills that you picked up whilst on your degree that have kind of helped you to progress?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, from a creative standpoint, my degree was fundamental to everything I do now. Like, it was the journey that I needed to develop the style and the context that I work on now. So from that standpoint, yeah, I would definitely agree with that. And from a business standpoint as well, like, the careers department was amazing, and they did have live briefs that I constantly applied for, and that was brilliant because that gave me kind of a beginning understanding of how commissions are going to actually live and sit in the real world with real world clients. And also we had workshops that we could go to, in a fortnight of different kind of workshops and lectures and things that we listened to, and we had visiting professionals that were really helpful. And I would definitely say that all of those things I was kind of listening to and keeping in tune with, and that's built up my confidence. That meant that I could just jump straight into freelancing once I'd finished uni. But also another tip I'd say is stay in contact with your careers department, because they are there to support you even after. And for example, I'm currently in a funded studio space with my uni. So that was like a post-graduation opportunity. So just constantly, they might still have opportunities to, you're not just like dropped after you graduate. So just make sure that you're keeping your eye out for that.
Excellent. That's brilliant. Thanks ever so much, Kat. If you've got any questions for Ekaterina, then pop them in the chat. And as I said before, we'll come back to any questions we've got at the end. But thank you for your time.
No worries.
Orla, are you happy to kind of talk through what you've been doing since graduation and things like that?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Hi everyone, I'm Orla. I came to Leeds from Manchester in 2018 to do marketing management at Leeds Beckett. The reason behind the marketing degree was always sort of something that I've been interested in, definitely wanted to find out more about. I knew there was a lot of opportunities in terms of jobs, careers, you know, graduation. So things like that was just something that I was really interested in, wanted to learn more about and get more involved in. So I did that for 3 years. There was the opportunity to do a placement year, which at the time I was really interested in. It was right bang in the middle of COVID. So it was sort of difficult to, a lot of it was remote work, and that just wasn't something that I was too excited about at the start, because I thought, you know, in a placement I want to be in the workplace and learning from people around me. So I didn't end up going for a placement year, which half of me regrets, but half of me doesn't, because sort of not going for the placement year, I saw people around me that did go for those years. And one of the girls that I lived with initially, she went to one of the careers fairs, and I went with her for the industry, year in the industry placement years. So I went with her for that, and then we found out about a lot of recruitment firms that were offering years in the industry. So we went there. She ended up going for the placement. She absolutely loved it. And then she ended up, so she's doing her final year right now and still does part-time work with that recruitment company. And that sort of opened my eyes into the world of recruitment, and sort of led me down the path where I am today. So obviously just her doing that definitely opened my eyes, and just seeing what everybody else is doing around you helps you to sort of figure out, you know, what is out there. And similar to Beth, I had no idea about recruitment or the process or anything like that before, you know, you get into it and you look into it. So it is definitely something that a lot of people don't consider. It is something that you sort of fall into. You know, you might get approached by someone, or you might see something on LinkedIn, or, you know, go to a careers fair or something like that, and that's when you sort of find it and go into it. So yeah, I graduated in, I think it was about May time last year, and I'd already had a job offer. So how I sort of went about finding the job, I'd been to a few graduate fairs and sort of, I had applied for marketing jobs, but I wasn't just focusing just on that, because I know it was quite a difficult time to get a graduate job, you know, during like the height of the pandemic, really. So I was definitely keeping my options open. And then one of the girls that I knew from university, she applied for a job at the company where I'm currently at. I saw it on LinkedIn and reached out to the company myself, and then sort of went through the process and got the job where I'm at. So I started in September, had a bit of time off during the summer just to sort of sort myself out, find accommodation, you know, get everything sorted. Started in September as an executive search consultant. So I started off doing that, which is basically a lot of like client and candidate relationships. It's just executive recruitment in a nutshell, really. Started off doing that. I was doing that for 6 months, and then a vacancy became available for the head of talent acquisition for the group that I work for. So we're a group of 6 companies. We've got 2 companies up in Leeds and 4 down in London. So that vacancy became available, and I thought, yeah, that's a bit of me, you know. I could literally talk for England, so that's sort of one of the main characteristics for the role, you know, being chatty, being personable, wanting to just go out there and speak to people, really, and build those relationships. So I went for the role, successfully got it. So I've currently been in this role for about 2 months now, so not long really, but really enjoying it. So there currently wasn't a talent acquisition team, so it was sort of my job to, you know, head it up and get things going. We didn't really do any internal recruitment, so my job role in a nutshell is reaching out to graduates, you know, doing a lot of work with universities, basically talking about our graduate opportunities and graduate schemes. And we offer placement years, so I, you know, talk to a lot of people about that. But day to day, the reason behind, you know, why I went into this role is because, similar to Beth, you know, the relationships that you build with people. And I know she mentioned about making someone's journey possible, and then, you know, literally, as Beth said, you know, when you speak to somebody over the phone and you tell them they've got the job, you know, it feels really good to know that you've been a part of that and you've, you know, helped them through that process. So yeah, I've been at G&E for about 8 months now, and yeah, absolutely love it. So I'm in the Leeds office, but sometimes go down to London. So I work very closely with a lot of the managing directors and the heads of business. So coming out from you know, university, not really having any idea what I wanted to do. Marketing is quite broad. You know, there's so many different alleys that you can go down. So it was quite difficult trying to figure out what I wanted to do. But I would say my top tip would be LinkedIn. So one of our modules actually in my course was 20% of it was basically to make a LinkedIn profile, professional profile, and then half of that was to write blog posts and get yourself out there and make connections and things like that. I think that's something that a lot of courses should definitely offer, and that really helped me to get, you know, kick-started within any industry that I really wanted to be in and make my connections and figure out how to use LinkedIn. I know a lot of people from other universities, my friends, they had no idea about LinkedIn profiles, and I couldn't even stress how important it was to get yourself out there, you know, especially if you wanted to get into the world of business and things like that. It's the place to be, even just to see what's going on out there and make connections, find out what's going on with people. And that's where a lot of our graduates come from. You know, I see people on LinkedIn, I drop them a message, and then we have a chat. And you know, even if they aren't interested, it's still good for them to find out from us what we can offer and to find out from them what it is that they're looking for. So speaking to graduates is really, you know, my main role within my job. And it's I would say, like, similar to that, speak to recruiters. They're literally your best friend, and you know, being a graduate and wanting to kickstart your career in whatever industry, You know, recruiters know everybody within the recruitment industry. It doesn't matter which sector. But yeah, I would say LinkedIn, get yourself out there, so people know who you are, you know, what it is that you're interested in. And yeah, I think, yeah, Leeds as a city as well. I'm probably just backing up everything that's already been said. I absolutely love it. So originally from Manchester and moved here. It wasn't really, I didn't really have any competition with anywhere else. I loved it as soon as I came here. I loved the size of it and you know, how exciting it was. It definitely is a growing city. There is so much opportunity and potential for businesses that are growing right now, especially in the recruitment sector as well. I know there's so many recruitment and executive search firms, and I joined a growing business. I would say that's another thing. Definitely, if you're looking to get into different industries, find out about the business's growth plans and things like that. That's probably why I got the role that I'm currently in. So I remember in my first interview, we had a chat about their growth plans and about, you know, where they're wanting to be in a few years' time. And there was opportunities for marketing and operations, and the further opportunities were there. So that immediately just, you know, my interest was there within the business, and I knew it wouldn't just be a short-term job. It would be, you know, there'd be a lot more career opportunities for me down the line.
That's excellent. Thanks ever so much for that. That was really
No problem.
interesting. So obviously you love Leeds. Do you think you might stay here kind of long term, or are there
Yeah,
inklings to-
absolutely. So I have a really nice little flat right now, and you know, it's only a 10-minute walk from work. I love the fact that I'm so close to the city centre. Like, it's so easy. If I need anything, it's on my doorstep. So, you know, I'm happy where I live. I work right next to the train station, so it's so easy just to jump, you know, home if I need to for an emergency. Obviously, I'm only an hour away. But I love the city as a whole. I feel like everything is just all in one place. It's brilliant. Just having it, you know, it's the perfect size for a city. I think it's growing. It's not too big, not too small. So yeah, I absolutely love Leeds. We'll be here for the foreseeable, definitely.
Excellent. Good to hear. So obviously, I think you mentioned a little bit around this. You kind of went from marketing management into recruitment, but still with a kind of management angle, didn't you? Were there any kind of skills from your degree that you kind of felt, particularly when you came to applying, were kind of really useful to? Yeah,
definitely. I feel like similar to what Beth has said again, I feel like we work in similar industries, so it's quite a lot of the stuff we're talking about is the same, but especially stuff to do with like deadlines and the self-motivation. You need that to a lot of the time be in recruitment in general. So hence, you know, why I applied for it, because I knew that I was able to organize myself and, you know, hit those deadlines and basically put in the work to get what I wanted out of my degree. And, you know, obviously that happened when I got the grade that I wanted to at the end, and I got the job that I wanted to. So definitely the self-motivation. Again, teamwork, you know, doing the group presentations. It's a lot of university was about building confidence, and I think that's one of the things that you do need going into you know, the working world. You need to be able to present yourself to people and communicate with people that are, you know, higher up in a business, and anyone really. You know, communication skills are massive in the working world, and I feel like that's something that you get from doing a degree, speaking to people, you know, lecturers, like classmates, everyone like that. So it is definitely a big thing. But yeah, I feel like that's definitely
That's fantastic. Yeah, and the fact that you had the confidence to go for a head of talent acquisition is fantastic. And you've just gone to prove that, you know, it's never too soon to do something like that, as long as your skills and your confidence align with that job, essentially.
Yeah, so, absolutely. Yeah, I do feel like that's one of the main reasons why, you know, I joined the business that I'm at, because I know that there was growth opportunity there for me, and I didn't want just a short-term job after university. I wanted somewhere where I could grow and thrive as a person, and really put my skills into practice. And I now do sort of a few different job roles. I do so like operations, I run the Leeds offices and do that on the side. I do a lot of social media marketing on the side as well. So that sort of links into my degree, and you know, the opportunities are only growing really from us. So I would say definitely top tip when you're speaking to businesses and getting in there, ask about growth plans, because if it's not something that you know about, and you know, I came into it just thinking I would be an executive search consultant. without knowing the opportunities are there. And that just really made me more interested and want to join the business that, you know, want you in there and want you to contribute to their growth.
Yeah, it really is something to kind of look for those growing businesses and things like that, isn't it? Because
100%.
there's more opportunity for you. That's fantastic. I've not had any other questions through. I don't know if anybody else has, because they may not come directly to me. But has anybody else got any questions, whether on the panel or in the audience?
I was just going to say what you and Orla were both speaking about, Ellie, is that going for things that, like, for example, congratulations on the head role, but it's kind of like going for things that you don't necessarily think in your head that it's too high for you. So, for example, when I applied for Morley, I was like, I'm not going to get it, but I'm just going to apply because it's good practice to write these proposals. And then I got it and I was like, oh, okay. Exactly so I think it's one of those things where you just go for it, because like you're not going to get it if you don't apply. Yeah, that's just the fundamental mentality you have after you graduate.
I completely agree with that. Definitely, I feel like you've just got to go out there and prove yourself, and you know, put yourself out there, because people don't know what you've got available, you know, until you go out there and tell people.
That's exactly it. And really, what have you got to lose by applying?
Yeah,
exactly. I know it can be a scary process, and it can seem like a lot to do, but as Ekaterina said, it's all good experience. So even if you don't get that job, you might get some valuable feedback, and you haven't lost anything by doing it.
Beth was saying is that people are just humans. Like, even if you don't get it, it's like people are going to be nice to you. They're not going to be like, you suck and you don't deserve this job. But also, like, it's good to just make connections with people. Like, even if you didn't get it, you still have that, your name is now in someone else's head, so that's someone else that knows you, and that network is slowly growing a little bit more. And people are really nice in general, so you shouldn't be worried about what's going to happen if you apply for something. Like, don't get into like the negativity side of it, because it's still networking even if you don't get it.
Exactly. And experience creates confidence, I think, as well. So the more that you do it, the more it becomes easier to apply. It's still a bit of a lengthy process. I never hide that, but it becomes easier because you understand the process a little more.
And also don't get like disheartened if you don't get it. Like, exactly. I obviously just showed a presentation of all the ones I did get, but I have also applied for things I did not get, which I think is important to say as well. Like, it's a lengthy process and sometimes you don't get it.
Yeah. But about having that resilience as well, isn't it? Because I'm sure Beth and Orla can back me up, hopefully, with this, where I say just because you didn't get it didn't mean that you weren't up there, but there may only have been one job and several people who were suitable for it. So it's not to say that you were not good. It might just be that somebody else picked you to it on that occasion.
Absolutely.
And applying.
Definitely.
And I think, Beth, what you said about where it says to get in contact with the person and have that conversation, I think that was you, sorry.
No, and I think as well on that, in terms of, you know, getting feedback and, you know, taking steps towards the end goal, even if it doesn't quite work out first time, it is always really important to try and have a conversation, you know, find out as much as you can, because every little snippet of information that you get from someone directly within a business that you're interested in or in a role that you're interested in will really help you tighten your process, for want of a better. Like Ekaterina was saying as well, there's so many chances in the future as well from those relationships that you've built, and it's just being able to grow that. The role that I'm in now, the guy I now work for, I spoke with 2 years ago, and I'm only just now like as part of his team, and it's just worked out timings wise that now, you know, it's something that I was interested in, but that's a relationship that's been sort of there and underlying for so long. And I see it so much in terms of, you know, being in recruitment, that it is for the long term. And another thing that I was going to say about sort of finding opportunities and, you know, perhaps exploring what's out there, there's so much more out there than just, you know, the big grad schemes that are advertised on Prospects or the job boards. 9 times out of 10, most businesses will have a graduate or an entry-level person within their business, whether they are a one-man band, obviously with someone else as well, or, you know, 10 people or, you know, 5,000 people. There will always be opportunity within the business for graduate talent, because it is so important. You know, a lot of people do want to offer training opportunities, they want to offer the chance for people to grow alongside them. So pick businesses and pick areas, don't just pick the graduate schemes, because 9 times out of 10 that there will be something there. It may not be a 2-year set training process, but actually you may gain more. And I think a lot of people trip up in that they apply for the really big grad schemes, and you know, there naturally is a lot of competition and it can take a long time to get on them. And if that's what your heart's set on, go for it. Like, it will be amazing. But don't just look at that, because all businesses I've ever worked with, like I say, from like 3 people in a small office to hundreds of thousands of people, all look for graduate talent, and there definitely is opportunity there. So try and pick the area, pick the location, pick the industry, and look at both options, because there's so much more out there than I think a lot of people sometimes have access to.
Absolutely, yeah, that research is really important, isn't it? And I think we've had comment on previous sessions this week from students who seemed quite set on specifically a grad scheme. And as you say, that's not a bad route to follow, but there may be other opportunities in other areas, whether it's smaller businesses or growing businesses, or
absolutely, absolutely. And big businesses don't get big overnight. You know, it takes them a long time, and you know, you could be part of someone's journey to grow. And you know, similar to Orla, you know, that's really quick trajectory in a fairly short space of time, and like absolutely brilliant that you've been able to do that. If you worked for, I don't know, Tesco or something, it may not be as possible, because there's so many hoops to jump through. So yeah, I think it's just about keeping an open mind, because there's so many businesses that aren't your typical grad scheme job that offers so much more.
Yes, yeah. So a grad scheme might offer you a wealth of opportunities within that scheme, but a smaller company may provide you with the opportunity to grow in your career.
Yeah, totally personal preference. Like I say, if that's what you want and your heart's set on it, go for it. Like, it's fantastic. But also, I just think that there is more and lots of exciting opportunity out there.
And you can pick where you live. So
yes,
you can
exactly.
stay in Leeds, whereas if you do a grad scheme, you might be put, who knows, Timbuktu. Probably not Timbuktu.
When Beth was talking about feedback, it made me think of, I've actually found it really helpful not to only ask feedback from ones you didn't get, but ask feedback from when you did get a job. Because like, I found out things of why the client picked me that I didn't, which was just really helpful to know, and which I hadn't maybe thought about. Like, for example, I found that in the roles that on the proposals that I do, every time I've done a mock-up of the design, this is a very specific example, but they said that was the thing that tipped me and meant that the other candidates kind of fell back, was that. So it's really good to find out, especially if you have more like a freelance role or something where you're getting multiple jobs, to find out what was that thing that pushed you from the other candidates. So it's not only negative feedback, but also like positive feedback is helpful.
Absolutely. And if you didn't get a role, there's nothing to say that the feedback will be negative. May just be, as we said earlier, that there were a lot of applications. It's about, you know, utilizing any criticism you can, but also the positives. You know, I know that people are, I know it's the next step, but a few students we've had are nervous when they come to interview, perhaps thinking, you know, oh, I've done application, but I don't know interviews. But at that stage, you've got to consider, well, you've jumped a hurdle, so you're already in contention. So it's just about taking the positives from every step, really, and learning from them. And there's a lot to learn throughout your entire career. That will never stop. Always keep learning. But early on, when you're kind of new at applying to these sorts of things and getting out into the working world, there is a lot to learn. Almost all at once, but it can all really help as you kind of progress. That's been really interesting. Thanks ever so much, everyone. Sorry we kind of lost you a bit there, Tom, but thanks for sticking with us. Thanks to everybody on the panel and for all of their comments. We do have some more sessions today. First of all, there is a feedback form in the chat. It's really useful to get an idea of where the audience has come from in terms of the university and what you've studied, but also there's a few questions to see how you found the sessions. So we'd appreciate it if you could pop on and fill that in. It's a quick form. We have 2 more sessions today. At 2 o'clock, we have one on policy and public sector. That's actually not being held on this same link. So I'm going to pop the link. Hopefully that is a very long link, but hopefully it's the correct one. No, it's probably not. If you signed up to it, you should have.
I can find that.
Have you got it?
On.
I've got a very strange one from clicking on it. So we'll pop that in the chat as well. So that's for the 2 o'clock session on policy and public sector. And then we have a session at 4 o'clock this afternoon, which is on this same link again, which is, funnily enough, on growth sectors, which we have partly talked about growing businesses today. So that will be from 4 till 5 today. So we hope that you can join us for that. So yes, yeah. So the link is just in the chat now for you for the next session. So hope everyone has a lovely day and a lovely lunch. Thanks again to Ekaterina, Orla and Beth and Tom for your time today.
No worries.
And hope to see you all again soon.
Brilliant. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, everyone. Cheers. Bye.
Bye.
Take care.
Bye.